Howdy, folks. I just want to do a quick update. While I was recording this audio, for some unknown reason, around about the 15-minute mark, a buzzing noise will start to appear and it will start to um, get more noticeable as the audio goes on. Near to the end, it's quite noticeable. I don't know as to why it happened. I believe after troubleshooting, um, it was an issue with interference from a signal booster that I have in my room for my internet. Um, I have since turned it off, but obviously I don't want to re-record this episode because I believe it's quite good. So I just thought I'd do this quick sort of um, update at the beginning of the video to let you folks know that there will be some buzzing noise, and that if you're listening with headphones it might get quite annoying or might be quite jarring, so I apologize for that, and I hope for the next episode to fix the issue. So what I recommend is that if you're going to listen to this episode, make sure you're not wearing headphones for best results. And I apologize, but I'm still learning. I'm still trying to figure out how this stuff works. I can only apologize, but hopefully next week, fingers crossed, if I've done all my troubleshooting, and I believe that I have, but I'll do a few more tests before next week, and hopefully next week will be better. So I just want to say my apologies again, and I hope you enjoy the show nonetheless. So thank you, and on I go with the show. Howdy, folks. Howdy, howdy, howdy. Welcome back to the second episode of What Page You On with me, your host, Luke, the Ginger Bookworm. And on today's page, we've got a jam-packed show. But first of all, I just want to take the time to thank absolutely everybody who listened to the first episode. Genuinely, um, it means so much. It really does. All the feedback and all the love and everything I got off everybody was just overwhelming. I got so emotional. Some of the messages and some of the um, feedback was just incredible. It really, really means a lot. So I generally just want to say thank you to everybody who took the time to um, listen. I get granted. I know it went on a bit longer than I'd planned. I generally had planned just to do like a 30-minute max, but it went over close to an hour. Um, but for those of you that listened all the way through, or even just got halfway through, it doesn't really matter to me. What matters is that you listened and you took the time, and generally, just it means a lot. So, as I said, with feedback, I got a lot of feedback from you guys. It was, like I said, an amazing amount. Um, One of the biggest sort of key sort of feedbacks was that uh, it just started. Whereas, like, I didn't really know how to use the app. I wasn't really sure. Like I said, I'm still learning. I'm still trying to figure out what I'm doing here. Um, and one of the things that people were saying was that I just started talking. There was no sort of flow. It just started straight away. So I've been playing around the app, and I figured out how to do um, interludes. Beginning, like an intro and an outro. So as you probably noticed when the um, audio started, when you started listening, there was a bit of a chime at the beginning just to kind of bring it in as a soft thing. I feel like um, if I add that in now, it kind of adds really quite smoothly. But also, what it allows me to do, as I've done a bit more research and looked into it over the last sort of week since the first episode, that it means I can do interludes. So what that means is basically I could do an introduction, as I'm doing now, and then I could say, "Okay, folks, it's time for the review," and then I can stop the recording, mark it as introduction, and then we can put up, say, I can start again, do my interview, stop that one, then go into this little section, get some music, editorial music. They've got loads to choose from on here. Choose which one fits best, stick it in between, press play, and then it'll have the intro, the introduction, bit of music, the review starts. I haven't really played around with it that much, so I don't really know exactly how to do it in a productive, smooth way. So what I figured I would do, just for the second episode, try it a bit, but not too much. So I'm going to do an intro and an outro music. That way we can kind of get a feel for how it works. And then hopefully next week I'm going to try at doing some segments. So fingers crossed, see if it works. Like I said, it's all about learning. It's all about experimenting. It's all about having fun. And that's kind of what I'm trying to achieve here, really, is just to have as much fun as possible, be the most honest and genuine version of myself that I can be. And hopefully, that comes across. So we're going to be experimenting. We're going to be learning. It's going to be fun. So, without further ado, now all that's out of the way, on to the Eternals review. Now, I will say, before I begin, completely honest with you, right? This is a open discussion. So what that means is that it's going to have spoilers in it. So if you haven't watched the movie yet, or you're still planning on watching it, or you just haven't gotten around to it, take your time now. I won't be offended at all. You can go away, do whatever you got to do. Pause this, and then once you've watched it, it's on Disney Plus now for free. And I think you can get it on a few other streaming sites. I think you can actually buy it digitally now as well. Go away, give it a watch, and come back when you've watched it. And then I'll be here where you left me on pause. So I'll give you time now just to pause me right now, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, now, so for those of you that are still here, the Eternals. Well, before I start my overall opinions, I did a poll on my Twitter just to kind of see what people thought and to see what their feelings were. And the results were actually quite interesting. What I got on my on the poll, and as I said, the results were very interesting. So, out of 11 responses, I got 27% said they loved it, 18% wasn't a fan of it, and 55% of people haven't seen it. Now, I'll be honest, that's quite interesting considering the fact of if you look at all the reviews for the movie, most of the reviewers kind of did it quite negative, and I feel like that hurt the movie because a lot of people kind of one of the sorry things about reviews, whether it be a book or a movie, is that the average moviegoer or the average book reader or the average video game player, it doesn't matter who you are, majority of you hear what's the negative reviews and then they just take them as face value. Majority of people just don't give something a try, don't give something a go, and they just go, oh well, this and this person said it was crap, so I'm not going to give it a go, which is a shame because I feel like within doing that you're going to miss out on something that could generally be good. Now, there are times where something is crap and it just is crap, but I always, for me personally, whenever I see a bad review, it makes me want to read it, to play it, to watch it more, just to kind of see, is it really that bad? Because I feel like reviewers can be quite harsh, more harsh than they need to be, more critical than they need to be, so I always like to give it a go. So looking at the results, I wasn't surprised or shocked at the 27% and the 80 who people said that loved it and the 18% that wasn't a fan. I was shocked at the 55% of people who haven't seen it, but it's a good almost 3 hour long movie, so I completely understand why a lot of people haven't given it a go. And as well, with the bad press that comes with it, it's like, do I really want to spend my time watching a movie where everybody says is bad? So I get it, but it's fair game. But I'm going to try my best to maybe change your opinion or even try to give you a different sort of perspective on it. So, my overall thoughts. Honestly, I enjoyed it. I loved it. I enjoyed my time with it. I enjoyed the characters. To me, this movie is an experiment. One thing I've noticed with this new, since Endgame and up to quite recently with the new Spider-Man, and which don't worry, I won't go into spoilers for that one yet. But up until Endgame to Spider-Man, they've been trying new, different things, different concepts, different genres. They've been experimenting. For example, Shang-Chi, for example, that was a traditional, old-fashioned kung fu movie. It started off in Mandarin. It didn't even start off in English. It started off in Mandarin. It had amazing, real-life, true kung fu fight choreography. You know, it had amazing visuals. It was going with characters that, you know, most people, most fans don't really know much about. You know, Shang-Chi's not really one of the A-list. He's more of a B to C. You know, he's up there with Iron Fist, which you'll only really know of if you watched the Netflix TV show. But apart from that, most people haven't, because in all fairness, the Iron Fist TV show was terrible. But that's beside the point. The point is, you know, he's not really a very well-known character. So people don't know a lot about him. So I'm surprised it did very well, which I'm glad it did, because again, it was an experiment, it was a test, and it worked. And I feel the same with from watching Eternals. Now, like I said, I've seen it twice now, and on my first viewing, I thought it was an experiment. You know, it was a test. There were things that worked, the things that didn't work, but overall, it was a good, decent movie. And I thought, if I'm going to do a review on it, I've got to watch it again. So I wrote down my initial thoughts. I've got my notes here in front of me. You might be able to hear that piece of paper rattling. You know, I've got my notes down here in front of me. So I left it a few days, and I thought I'll watch it again a second time. And on a second viewing, the movie made more sense, because when I'd watched it, I'd realised why certain characters acted the way they did, why certain movie beats happened, you know, what they were trying to do, what they were trying to say, what it was the director was trying to convey to the audience. And the more I started to realise this is an experiment, it's a long experiment, you know. Granted, it's quite brave to do an almost 3 hour long experiment in the MCU and kind of follow the MCU formula, but go off track a bit, but come back to it, you know. But I feel like it works. It really does work. I think the reviewers, like I said, were just a bit too harsh, or they didn't really understand it. You know, this is a movie kind of like The Matrix. It's a good film when you first watch it. It's amazing. But then when you watch it a second time and a third time, you notice small things. You're like, I see what you were doing there. I see those little hints. I see those little things, and you enjoy it a second time round. Sadly, I don't think people are going to give it a second chance, because it's a long movie. There's a lot happening. There's a lot of characters. There's a lot to take in, and I feel like a lot of people will just be like, "That was it, one and done." And if you're one of them people, you know, fair enough. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to tell you what to do with what you should do with your time. Um, but for me, it just made sense a second time round. And like I said, I want to reinforce it as much as possible that this is an experiment, and I think it's an experiment that's done very well. You know, they tried something new and it worked. Granted, it didn't always work at parts, and I'll get into those parts that didn't work. But overall, I think it worked. It was just my honest opinion, as everything else I've been saying here. But you know, my honest opinion is this would have done better as a Disney Plus miniseries. 6 to 8 episodes, an hour each. So that's 6 hours, 8 hours, right? Focusing on the characters. You know, you do your backstory. So you do like set 17. Like I'll get into the story premise in a minute, but you will set the characters back in the 7,000 years ago, which would be around Babylon times, and you follow them throughout history, fighting the deviants. And as you get through history, then you finally get to the present time, and then you do the story beat of the present time. By that stage, you have spent so much time with these characters through the past that you can relate to them, you can care about them, you know them by name, you love them, you hate them, X, Y, and Z. But the point is, by the time you've got to the modern time, you are invested enough where you're like, you know what? I care about what happens next. You know, I'm interested what happens next. I want to know what happens next. Whereas, because the way this, because it's done in a movie, even though it's good 3 hours long, they've got so many characters and so much story and so much they need to cram in. It's like, here's a little bit of backstory. Here's present day. Here's a little bit of backstory. Here's present day. You know, it's so backwards and forwards, and it goes really, really quickly. Then it slows down. Then it goes really quick again. Then it slows down. You know, but there are moments when them slow moments work, and then there's moments where it goes too slow, but there's moments where the fast moments work, but then it goes too quickly. You know, and I just feel like if it was done in a Disney Plus, if it was done in a mini series, it would have worked. And then if that was successful, then you'd be like, you know what, we're going to give the Eternals a movie. You know, because by that stage people know about them. um And I think that was the issue. Really, was it was just too long, too much jointed, and like I said, it was an experiment. People had been so used to now, from Iron Man up into Endgame, of a formula of how these MCU movies are meant to work and function. People were so used to that that when again they tried something new, because it wasn't what they were used to for so many years, understandably people were like, I don't like it, it's not for me. Even I, when I was watching it, I was like, I like it and I can see what they're doing, but it's not what I'm used to. But for me personally, when it comes to stuff like that, I'm more interested. When it's something I'm not used to, I want to know why. I want to know as to why it's different. I want to know as to why the characters are being this way, why Disney decided not to follow this formula, why did Marvel not to decide? For me, that's quite interesting, but for other people, it's no. So I completely understand that. But like, my overall thoughts is it's great, it's fantastic, it's an experiment. It's a bit disjointed. It probably would have done better on a Disney Plus show. But we have a movie, and like I said, I'm not complaining. I like what they're doing, and I hope for more. So now my overall thoughts get in the way. I'll get right into the premise. So the premise of this story is that 7,000 years ago, well, actually, tell you what, I'll go back even further than that. We'll have a bit of more of a history lesson. So the universe is created, and you have the Celestials. Celestials are giant, I want to say humanoid beings that are bigger than planets, right? They are gargantuan. They are massive. If you looked up into the sky, you would just see a head. You wouldn't see the full body because they're that big, right? They created life. They created everything in the universe, from planets to stars to everything, right? They also made the deviants. Now, the deviants' plan was that we're going to send these creatures out into the universe, and we're going to seed them on planets. And what they're going to do, they're going to go out and they're going to destroy and kill all of the creatures. For example, they sent them to Earth, and they're going to destroy and kill all the dinosaurs. And then once they've eaten and killed all the dinosaurs, then we're going to send in the Eternals to wipe them out and to protect humanity, and we're going to have, and then humanity can prosper. And that basically happens on every planet. Every planet that can sustain life but has the potential for intelligent life but can't because the predator environment is too high. The Celestials send the Eternals to basically wipe out the predators so that the intelligence can survive. That's the premise. So they're on Earth, they do that, and they are meant to, after they've destroyed and killed all the deviants, they're meant to get like a signal of a call back from Oshiram, the head Celestial, to say your mission's done, your mission's complete, you can leave. That message never comes. So a lot of them are kind of sat there like, well, what do we do? So they kind of blend in with humanity, and they just go about their lives, not interfering, not doing anything. So anytime World War One, World War Two, they kind of watch from afar. They never got involved. Endgame, Infinity War, stuff like that. Thanos didn't get involved. Just watched humanity do what they had to do. That was their job. Their job was not to intervene with humanity, not to um, get involved and sort of stop them from doing things. It was mostly just to kind of make sure that they don't destroy themselves completely, but also to make sure that they, um, don't get wiped out by the deviants. And now the deviants are gone, they just kind of sit and watch. So that's the basic premise of it. They're stuck on Earth, and they've been here for about 7,000 years, just watching us prosper, really, kind of pointing us in certain directions, but mostly just watching from afar. Basically, any story that you ever hear about the gods, or you ever hear about um, Zeus and stuff like that, they're inspirations of what these were, but like in real, well, not in real life, but in real life in the MCU, of they are gods, that have kind of come down from the sky to guide us and to watch us and to keep us safe, but never to interfere. So that's the basic premise of the story. They've come down to protect humanity from the deviants. Deviants have gone, and now they're stuck. They have no more orders. Everything's gone quiet. So what do? They kind of blend in, and that's the basic premise. And I think it's kind of interesting. It's different from what in the comics. In the comics, it's very different because in the MCU, the Celestials make the Eternals in the World Engine, whereas in the comic books, Celestials are humans that have been modified to have superpowers. So that's the difference there. Um, I wasn't against it. I kind of I was confused, but then when I found out, I was like, okay, I can see why they've changed it to fit the MCU. So it doesn't really fit the comics completely, but that's not really a bad thing. Whereas if you consider the Celestials and you consider the um, the comic books of them, really, that it's a very deep cut. It's very high Marvel lore. Like it's very complex. It's very deep. It's very old. Um, very high concept, and to be honest, the series is not that popular, but it has its fans. The art is beautiful, but the lore is incredibly dense. So majority of fans of comic books kind of stay away from it. So I can see why they changed things to kind of suit what they were trying to do. So now I've mentioned the premise, I get my overall feelings. There's a lot of characters, so it's going to take me a little bit. So I've got my notes with me. Um, I'm going to try and go through each character, what I liked and didn't like, and then we're going to kind of wrap it up on my final thoughts. So let me hydrate quickly. One of the downsides is when you can talk and talk and talk. It's great, but you get incredible dry mouth. Anyway, that's not important. Don't focus on that. So, our first character, Ajak, the Prime Celestial. Um, honestly, I loved her, but we didn't get enough screen time. She was a really interesting character. Her powers are healing, so when she touches you can heal, and she's the leader of the team, and she kind of talks to Oshiram, which is the main sort of Celestial. And we, like we have Salma Hayek, who's an incredible actress, but we just don't get enough time with her. She's on screen for bits, and this is why I said about um, the Disney Plus miniseries, and I'm going to mention it a few more times here because with some of the characters, because you have some credible actors here with some really good sort of potential with their character, but because we don't get to see enough of them, it's kind of like I'm interested, but I don't care. And like I said, this is a spoiler discussion, and I'm going to get into it. She's killed off quite early on in the story. In the story, she's killed off quite early, and it's like I didn't care that she died. I loved her character when she was on screen, but when they showed that she was dead, I was like, I don't care. I have no reason to care because you haven't given me a reason to care. It's a shame because I like her character. I want to see more of her character, but they just kill her off so early on. It's like, and oh, I'm supposed to feel emotion. I'm sorry. Boo hoo. And I don't mean to sound like a knob, but it's true. If you haven't given me anything to go off, then I'm not going to feel anything. You know, and it's not hard to get me going. If I'm quite an emotional person. If you want to make me cry, it's quite easy in a film. Um, but there was no emotion. There was like, oh, she's dead. Okay then. So that was the kind of the shame. I feel like we needed more of her. We needed more of just her leadership and understanding and her reasons of why I'm not doing things. We do get as to reason as to why she's dead and a reason why don't interfere with things, which I will get on in a minute when we start talking about Icarus. But I just feel like we just didn't get enough of Ajak. We didn't get enough of her character to really care that when she was gone. But I loved her when she was on screen. So now we have Icarus, who is played by the guy who was in Game of Thrones, which I'm blanking on his name because I've chocked my head full of eternal stuff that I've blocked out Game of Thrones lore, so please bear with me. But Icarus, again, he has Superman. Basically, he's Superman. He can fly. He has kind of somewhat super strength. It's never really implied he's got super strength, but I would assume he has for the action scenes. And he can shoot laser beams out of his eyes, or more than likely the cosmic beams. They never really give them a name, but most likely cosmic beams. And I don't know if I'm still trying to figure out if it's bad acting or if it was intentional. As I said, from watching it 2 times now and realizing Icarus's arc, I'm starting to feel that I understand as to why this he did this way, but his acting style is very wooden. It's like looking at a statue. He every time you see him on screen, he's got his hands in his pockets or his hands to his side, and he's just standing there. He's not emotive. He's kind of just like he's very stoic, very much like if he didn't talk to you, he would just nod and he would go like just grunt at you, like "Are you okay? Yeah, you know, not giving anything away." And I I feel the reason this is for, again, it could be bad acting, but I'm trying to hope that the reason as to why he was doing this was um, the thing is with Icarus, he knows as to why they are there. He knows as to what the whole point behind him being on Earth. Um, and this kind of leads into what I said about Ajax, being dead, was the fact of Ajax told Icarus about 1,000 years before the beginning of the movie, or maybe 2,000 years, I'm not really sure, that the reason why they're there is basically for protecting from the deviants, and then to make sure that humanity or any sort of sentient intelligent race gets to a certain level of intelligence. And then what that means, once they get to that point, then the planet will crack into, basically every planet with life on it is an egg, and inside the core of a planet is a celestial, because when the celestials make that, again, it's going to get really complicated. They can explain it quite well in the movie, but I feel like this is where it will lose a lot of people. Every planet with intelligent life has a celestial inside. When the celestials make a planet, they put a being, like I would say like a baby celestial, best way to explain it, inside the planet, and they let life prosper. And the deviants are there to basically kill off all of the predators, as I explained. The problem is, when the deviants were created, this is why I'll talk about this near to the end, because again, there's a lot to get into. But the Celestials evolve, the Deviants evolve, and that causes a problem. So the Eternals are there to basically stop them from evolving and stop them from killing humans, and to basically allow humanity to evolve. And then when humanity are ready, the planet will crack open, the planet will die, everybody will die on it, and the Celestial will be born, and then the Celestial will then go off and create a new sun and a new range of planets and more life, and then they will plant a seed of another Celestial, and then so on and so forth, and the cycle goes on. Anyway, Icarus finds this and basically realizes, well, there's no point caring about humanity, there's no point caring about this planet. So I just feel that whenever you see him on screen, it's the reason he's being wooden is because he's uncomfortable. He's uncomfortable around his teammates because he knows something they don't know. He's uncomfortable around humanity because he knows all this is meaningless. One day they're all going to die, all this is going to be destroyed, and that he's going to be sent off to another planet with another set of alien race, and that he's going to stay there for another couple thousand years, and then that planet's going to be destroyed, and then that planet and that planet, and he just knows that all this is pointless. He has a job, he's going to do his job, but that's it. He's very wooden, and again, I'm hoping it's the latter, but like I said, it might just be bad acting. I've seen the guy in other things. He was okay in Game of Thrones. He was good in The Bodyguard. I'm forgetting the actor's name, but I just feel like I want to hope that he's got better acting than this. I don't know. Like, again, if a mini series would have worked for this, we would have sort of got a bit more understanding. Anyway, so we now have Icarus's love interest, which is Cersei. She was interesting, but I wasn't blown away by her. Because Ajax is now dead, Cersei is now the leader, and you would think now she's in the leader role, now she's been put at the forefront, you get the most screen time with her, that she would be the most interesting, the most charismatic, the most sort of interesting character, which she's not. She's interesting to a point. She's interesting and she's emotive, but you're not blown away by her. You're not like, oh, this is really cool, I want to sit and listen to this woman talk and as she leads. and it's more just like I want to spend my time with other people. You know, I'm like a little child. Like, you're cool, but they're cooler. Can I go talk to them? No, okay, I have to sit and watch you figure things out. Okay, you know, so it was kind of a letdown. It was like, oh, it was a bummer. Also, apparently, and this is a bit that was really unbelievable and like kind of made me laugh on a second viewing, was that apparently Icarus and Circe had been married for 6,000 years, but none of that comes off on screen. Like, you look at them on screen and they have zero chemistry. They don't work. They don't like. They look at each other and they just look like two people that have just met. That you wouldn't believe that had been married and deeply in love and infatuated with each other for 7,000 years. It's just not evident on screen. Just because you told me they are doesn't mean I can see it. Like, maybe they are. I don't believe it though, because it doesn't portray on screen. So that made me laugh. Like, it's just like, okay, you tell me they are, but I don't believe it. But I take your word for it. But if you ever get around to watching it, or if you have watched it, um, was it believable to you? It wasn't believable to me. There was a relationship in this that was more believable, and I'll get on to that one. That one was just lovely. But anyway, so that's Icarus and Thursday. Now we get on to Sprite. Again, I'll be honest, I in my notes, and I even wrote it down in a little sort of words, was like, I don't know what to write, because I don't know what to say about Sprite. Sprite was just there. You know, she had an emotional sort of arc that didn't really pay off to the end. But overall, she was comic relief. You know, it was, I just don't understand. You know, it's very sort of, very odd. Like, again, I'm losing things to say because I don't know what to say about her. Apart from, at the end, she makes a really, really weird choice. Basically, Sprite is in love with Icarus, but the problem is Sprite is age locked. Is the best way I can explain it. So even though Sprite is thousands of years old, she is stuck in a child's body. I'd say a 14, 15-year-old's body. So she has the mind of a very old woman, but she has the body of a child. You know, and she's in love with Icarus, but you know, she can't have Icarus because of, you know, she's sort of young, but also she craves love. She wants to have children. She wants to have a relationship, but she can't because everybody sees her as a child. You know, so she despises humanity because they remind her of what she can't have, which is a life. You know, so she's just very much. She's kind of like Icarus. She's very much like, screw it. I don't want to be here. I don't like it here. I'm just stuck here. You know, it's very much like she just makes jokes. Like I said, she's the comic relief. There's no. It sounds horrible, but I don't feel there's any really real point to her. Like I said, she makes a weird choice at the end, going off with Icarus on, you know, helping him sort of execute his plan, but she has no reason to go with him. You know, she just does because she loves him. But I don't believe that she loves him because, again, it doesn't convey well. You haven't really shown me that she loves him. You haven't really shown me Sprite sort of fawning over him, or just being like, you know, being really close to him. All you really see, she smiles and gives him a hug when she first meets him, when we see Icarus on screen. But apart from that, nothing. All you think is they're best friends. That would be it. You know, there is no hint of love or affection. It's just, hello Sprite, hey Icarus, hug. That's it. So her end sort of scene made no sense to me at all. That's getting rid of the not the boring, shall I say, but the interesting but needed more of, to be more fun sort of part of it. Now we get on to the interesting, the characters that you want to spend your time with as you watch this movie, but sadly don't get as much time as what they deserve and what you deserve as a viewer, right? So you get Druid and Makari, right? Now, Druid, one of the best characters in the Eternals, one of the best characters in the whole movie. Druid can basically control minds. He has the ability to control every mind on the planet if he wanted to. And for me, Druid had one of the most powerful scenes in the whole film. Basically, because they've been there a good 7,000 years, they've seen humanity destroy each other. They've seen humanity destroy itself, rebuild, destroy itself, rebuild. And Druid's got to the point where he's like, I have the ability to stop them killing each other. I have the ability to stop them ever going to war. But he says it to Ajax. He's like, but you tell me I can't. You know how much mental torture that is. Well, I'm watching the people and the cities that I care about be destroyed. I can stop them instantly, but you tell me I can't do it. And he breaks down, and I'm breaking down with him as I'm watching it, because I would feel the same if I had that power, if I had that ability to create peace, to stop people fighting, to stop people killing each other. If I could do it, but I'm not allowed to do it, it would kill me inside. And I emulated so much with him, because I would be the same. I'd be like, and in the end, he just goes, you know what? Screw you guys. I'm going to do what I do. If you want to stop me, you're going to have to kill me. And so he takes control of this army, and he just leaves and walks off into the jungle like a badass, and completely awesome. On the flip side, you have Makari, which is Druid's love interest. She is deaf. Well, or I think it's the best terminology, mute. I'm not really sure. I hope I don't offend anybody. But she uses sign language, and they speak to her in sign language, and she's got super speed, and it's so beautiful whenever Makari and Druid are on screen together, because he talks to her so softly, so carefully, and he signs at the same time. But even when he signs, I know it sounds silly, but when he signs, it's very loving. When he signs, it's very caring. You can see the emotion in his hands as he's talking to her, and as she lights up and she smiles as she's reading what he's saying, and she can see it in his eyes there of love. Like, them two get less screen time than what Icarus and Cersei get, and they are more believable for a relationship and being in love than Icarus and Cersei. Druid and Makari are less screen time, make more sense. Icarus and Cersei, none. At all. Makes no sense. This is just power of great character writing and great acting. Whenever they're on screen together, you just light up. You're like, oh, look, they're together. Oh, you get really happy, get really cheerful. And I did. And I just really loved when they were together. Fantastic couple, interesting. Their fights were the most interesting. They had the most sort of badass moments. I'd be happy with a movie with just them two. Generally, a movie with them two would be heaven for me. And I feel like majority of people would agree. Most people at the end of this film was like, Druid was the best. And I agree, he was. Which is kind of interesting, because in the comic books, Druid is actually a villain, because he wants to be the leader. He wants to be the prime Eternal. And he's always trying to find ways to become the prime Eternal. So maybe that's something they will do in the future. He becomes a villain. I don't know. But I think he's quite interesting. But I think he'd make a good villain as well. So next we've got Kingo and Karun. Again, they're just comic relief. We have two comedic actors. Karun being from the old man from Run Fat Boy Run, and he has a spatula and he hits Dennis every time he slows down. For anybody who's watched Run Fat Boy Run anyway, and most people outside of England probably haven't seen it. I recommend to go watch Run Fat Boy Run. It's a fantastically funny movie with Simon Pegg. And then you've got Kingo. Again, they're just comic relief. They're funny. It's kind of just to make you smile. Not anything more depth than that. Again, we just don't get to see a lot of them, but they're funny. Then we've got Athena and Gilgamesh. Again, comic relief, funny, amazing action scenes. I just fall in love with them. Again, their relationship is, I don't know if it's love or if it's friendship, or like it's kind of like a really deep sort of loving friendship. But Gilgamesh basically says that he will spend his whole life looking after and protecting Athena, no matter what, and he will do it in the next life and in the next life. And again, less screen time, more believable relationship than the two main characters. So, again, makes no sense. And I just thought that their sort of relationship was just beautiful on screen. It was just lovely. Two people that deeply care for each other. Gilgamesh is basically like the Hulk. He is incredibly strong. Athena is a badass warrior, you know, or Athena, as she likes to be called. It's not Athena, it's Athena. Um, Again, Angelina Jolie, and I forget his name, but if you've watched the movie Train to Busan, you will know why he's badass. Every movie I see him in, he's badass. Right? He's an incredible actor, and I wish he gets more roles because he just deserves them. He's an incredible actor. So them two, lovely, amazing. Then we got Pathos, who is an inventor. He can basically create anything. He reminds me of Forge from the X-Men comics. Forge was basically, he had the mutant ability of if you could think it, he could make it. And that's basically Pathos. Pathos is basically the same. He could build everything. He's the builder. He has a very sort of amazing emotional scene as well. One that I definitely 100% connected to. Um, it cuts back to Hiroshima when the bomb was dropped on Japan, and he's just there in the middle of this sort of wasteland that has just recently been destroyed by the Fat Boy nuke, and he's just crying. He's just letting crying his eyes out with Ajak next to him, and he's like, this is my fault. I hate humanity. It was my designs. I'm the reason why they are here. He just started to despise humanity. I just don't want to be around these people, you know. And I get that as well. There are moments where I generally look at the news and I'm like, I don't want to be on this planet. You know, I don't want to be surrounded by humans. So I completely related to him. It was genuinely like, I get you. I understand what you're saying because I've been there too. You know, so it was very emotional. It really got me. And if I'll be honest, on a second viewing, it generally made me sort of just get like a lump in my throat of like, I understand, I get it. Different reasons, but same emotional connection, you know. Also, Pathos is the first openly gay character in the MCU, which I think is amazing. As well, also, you know, I forgot to mention Makari was the first openly mute, deaf character. So I'm glad that they are adding these sort of these characters into the MCU because there are characters like that in the MCU. But in the comics. But I'm glad they're bringing them into the mainstream now. I think that's the sign, as a society, we are growing and we are changing, which is fantastic. So I really like that. I'm trying to go through my notes. Right. So that was all the interesting characters as well as the beginning ones that we didn't get enough of. I loved them. I loved and hated all of them. Well, I didn't. Well, hated the beginning ones, and obviously from Druid downward, I loved. I had no real issue with any of them. Again, I feel like in a mini series, it would have worked, you know. And I'm onto my final thoughts now. But I just feel like mini series, if we had an hour each and we had 6 to 8 episodes, we could spend more time with these characters and we could have related to them and cared about them more. But because we got a movie, granted it was 3 hours long, but even though 3 hours is a long time, you've got a lot of characters, you've got a lot of story, you've got a lot of red herrings. This movie's full of red herrings, and misdirect, where it's like you're trying to do so much, you're trying to experiment, you're trying to add so many different mixtures to the pot and trying to hope for an incredible potion, and the potion works, but it has side effects. You know, and again, it's the parts of where some characters are not believable as to why they choose to do what they do, or some characters are wooden, and some characters their relationship and they're meant to love each other for so many years, but you don't believe it because it doesn't convey well because there's so much going on that you haven't got time to really focus on their love, and for some reason it works with others and it doesn't with them. Like that was for me that kind of didn't make sense. Because the whole sort of with the ending is the fact of Ajax's dead. Icarus basically decides, I'm going to distract the team. I'm going to bring the team together, distract them, so that the Celestial can pop out the planet, and that we can leave, and I'm done. And then I can go to another planet and do it again, right? But his idea is that I'm going to kill my whole team if I have to, and then I'm just going to let the Celestial come, and then great. And then this is where the bad choice comes in, where like Sprite, for no apparent reason, apparently because she loves him, but again, that's not believable, so it makes no sense, is that she goes with him for no reason. She just goes with him, and then the other sort of Eternals are like, well, fine. And then you've got Kingo and Karun leave again for no reason. They just leave, so they're not there at the final fight either. So then all you've got is Druid and Makari. Athena is on her own because Gilgamesh died because of Icarus. He died saving Icarus, thinking that he was doing the right thing, which again makes me love Gilgamesh even more. But knowing that he died for this guy really upset me. But you know, and then you've just got Paphos, and then they have their big battle, really cool, amazing battle, and no real sort of. Well, we do get a payoff, but it's more just like a big battle, and then Icarus just flies off into the sun, literally into the sun, and we don't know if he dies or not. Just into the sun, full on speed, right in there. But overall, my final thoughts. I enjoyed the story. I think it was interesting. There are moments where I generally started to question, was Asherim a genius or not? Because again, Asherim made the deviants, but he didn't realize that they could evolve. So instead of wiping the deviants out, which he could have done, he started again and made the deviants, but so they couldn't evolve. He just made a new batch of people, the Eternals, who couldn't evolve, who couldn't age, and was just going to use them instead. Again, I don't know if he's a genius or if it's a very stupid plan. It makes no sense to me. And then you have the end of the movie where he comes back because they stopped the Celestial from being born, and he's like, I'm going to. He picks up all the Celestials on the planet, and he basically goes. He picks up all the Eternals on the planet. He goes, "You have decided not to let this Celestial live. You have sacrificed him for the life of the humans on this planet. I am going to read your memory now, and I'm going to judge to see as to why you decide if they are worthy to live or not. And if I deem them not worthy, I'm going to come back and destroy them all." He appears in the sky. It's a really cool sort of visual image, and then the movie just kind of ends. And the thing about that is that it's so amazing and incredible, but so it's kind of like it's higher than Thanos level threat. This is a huge threat, right? And it from watching the new Spider-Man and watching Shang-Chi and then watching Hawkeye, I don't really give a shit, sorry to swearing, about what happens in Spider-Man and what happens in Doctor Strange, and I don't care about, Kate Bishop and her trials and tribulations with her mother. When Asherim the judge comes down and says he's going to judge humanity, and if he deems us not worthy, more than likely he will deem us not worthy, and he's going to come back and he's going to destroy the planet, it's kind of hard to care about the multiverse and to care about anything else in any other mini-series or whatever movie they create next. When Asherim the judge said he's going to come back and destroy us if we're not worthy, which we're not going to be worthy because there needs to be a sequel. So my point is, how can you really care about all this stuff when you've got something like that hanging over your head? You know what I mean? So that's what's kind of bothering me moving forwards. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the movie. Really, like I enjoyed it. It was interesting. I just feel that it needed. It was an interesting experiment that worked and didn't work, but overall I do recommend people give it a go. I recommend people go out and give it a watch and just try it for themselves. Like, again, it's granted it's almost 3 hours long, but if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. It's an experiment. But I feel now I know where it's going, and now they have the foundation that they can build upon this for a sequel, and that the sequel will be better. Whenever that they make the sequel, I don't know. They haven't said anything as of recording this, but I do hope and wish that a sequel will come. And I think a sequel will benefit greatly these characters. So that's my final thoughts. I enjoyed it, and if I had to give it a score out of 10, I'd give it an 8.5 because it's good, but like it's missing things of being great. So that's that done. That's the movie review done. So I wanted to take the time now to uh, try something new, try something a bit different, and I wanted to have a Q&A. So I asked people a few questions, and I got a few responses, and I just wanted to sort of um, present them now and kind of answer them as best I can. So the first question I've got is, what was my favourite book as a kid and why? Well, this is a bit of a long story, and I might end up talking about this a lot more in detail in the future, because we don't really have a lot of time at the moment to really go into full detail because the review was quite long. So I'll give you the sort of quick and brief version of it. Because I am dyslexic, I didn't really enjoy reading growing up. Reading was a chore, and I just never really, because I couldn't do it, I didn't want to do it, you know. And it wasn't till 2014 when I finished um, senior school, high school, that I decided I've got nothing else to do during the 6 weeks holiday. I'm just going to sit and I'm going to read. And that's where it really began. So as a child, I didn't read. I wanted to read, but I didn't want to read because I couldn't do it, you know. So it wasn't until later in life that I grew an appreciation for books and for literature that I do now, that I want to read more every day, all day. So I don't really have a favourite book when I was a child, but my favourite book as an adult for when I started reading um, is Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I think I've mentioned it before, but it's an incredible book, incredible series. Douglas Adams is an incredible writer, and I highly recommend everybody to go out and check Douglas Adams out. Any of his books. He died too early. He died too soon. He died before I was born, I believe. And it's just a shame because the guy had so much potential. The guy had so much imaginative juices that he just couldn't get it all out before he passed. And again, it does upset me because he's generally, I would have loved to have seen to what he does. If I could go to another dimension where he's still alive, I would go and buy every one of his books and bring them back, and I wouldn't share them with anybody because I'm greedy and because it would probably destroy the timeline. So hopefully that answers your question. Next question: if I had to choose anywhere in Narnia to live, where would I pick? To be honest, I think I would just choose Narnia. There are many lands of Narnia, but I would just choose to stay in Narnia, and I would choose, even though I don't like the White Witch and I wouldn't want her to be ruling over me, I would be honest, I would probably choose Narnia during winter. Even though I'm not a big fan of snow, I quite like Narnia in winter. I think it's kind of beautiful and it's a very magical place. So yeah, if I choose anywhere to live, it would be Narnia. And that I've got a few other questions, but looking at my time, I'm 51 minutes in. I have 9 minutes left before it decides to freak out and be like, "You've gone for too long." So I'm going to move on. And I'm going to save because I've got another big question here. It's a very, very long one, which I want to get into more detail with, which I will do next episode. So I will save that for next time. But thank you for everybody who asked me questions anyway. Sorry that I couldn't get around to all of them. The review went on longer than I wanted to. So the next part is, well, as I do before I end, I want to talk about what I'm reading, what I am listening to, what I'm playing, and so on and so forth. So what I'm currently reading is I'm reading Jacinto's Remnant by Karen Travis, which is a Gears of War book. It's set between it's set after the events of Gears of War 2, directly after the events of Gears of War 2, when Jacinto has sunk into the ocean. And I'm not that far in, but they basically have to deal with the evacuation of all the people and then kind of find a new land somewhere to rebuild. Really good, really interesting. You can't go wrong with Karen Travis. She's an incredible writer. She mostly writes video game novels, but that doesn't matter. To be honest, she's incredible as an author, and I really enjoy her books. I'm currently listening to a Doctor Who novel called The City of Death. I think it's believed City of Death, set in Paris. It's a classic Doctor Who story written by Douglas Adams. It takes place during the 70s with the Fourth Doctor and Romana 2, to to be more specific, Lala Ward. And again, that's quite interesting. I'm not very far into that one either because I've been really busy trying to plan out and write my notes for this one, this review. So I haven't really got around to reading as much, and I haven't got around to playing video games as much as I wanted to, and listening to any audiobooks as much as I want to. Because for example, I had planned to do a huge sort of like news bulletin near the end, but I'm gonna have to leave that to next week. But it's okay. Well, I might even do a bonus. I think I found out that I could do bonus episodes on here, so I might do a bonus episode where I just talk about the news. We will see what I decide to do. But yeah, so that's basically it. I'm still playing Mass Effect. I'm currently looting the universe of, well, the Milky Way galaxy, to be more specific, of all its resources. Because I'm playing Mass Effect 2, you can go to different planets and you can just harvest resources from every planet. So I'm just launching probes on every planet I come to and depleting the universe, the Milky Way, of resources, which is always great, always a fun thing to do. Very piratey, very fun. But yeah, that's about it. So before I sign off, again, I want to say thank you again. And generally, I want to say thank you to everybody listening now, people who've stayed with me, and people who will stay with me from the future. As I mentioned a few bits here and there, I have got big plans. You know, I want to add interludes, and I want to add in. I want to do more sort of polls on Twitter. So if you follow me on Twitter, ginger_book. You'll find me on there, or just type in the Ginger Bookworm and you'll find me on there. And you know, interact, and we'll have fun, have conversations. I'll be posting more things on Twitter. I'll be more active on Twitter because I'm not a very active person on Twitter, but I will be a lot more active on there now. And yeah, generally, just I want to say thank you. Like I said, I had loads of plans of what I wanted to do for this episode, but I had a feeling that the Eternals review was going to go longer than I originally thought. I had planned of doing a really long Q&A and doing like a news bulletin, like I wanted to talk about Microsoft buying, acquiring Activision and all their companies. But sadly, that's probably going to have to wait. But like I said, I can do bonus episodes. So when this comes out on Thursday, I'm currently recording this on the Wednesday. So when this comes out tomorrow, keep an eye out. I will probably do a bonus sort of episode, a quick one. That'll just be me talking about the news. It will be a lot shorter, most likely under 10 to 20 minutes. It won't be long. But I feel like that'll be an interesting thing to do. And really fun. And like I said, I've got other plans for the future. I want to get some more guests on. I'm currently talking to a few people. So hopefully, you know, we can get some more guests on and we can talk about things. But yeah, I just generally I want to end and sign off episode 2 by saying thank you again. I can't say thank you enough. Every and all feedback means a lot. And yeah, so don't forget, if you listen to this on Spotify, don't forget to rate 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, 4 star, 5 star, no matter what you deem worthy of my performance. You know, I'm your dancing monkey. If you think I have done a good enough job, rate me. You know, as many stars as you feel. Rating really helps because it gets me up the ratings and people see and listen to my content a lot more and get a bigger audience, and then I can start, you know, doing more things, and hopefully I can have more time to chit chat and have more people to talk to. I want more people to interact with. So yeah, don't forget to rate, follow me on Twitter, ginger_book, and yeah, that seems about it. So thank you for listening to What Page You On with me, your host, Luke, the Ginger Bookworm. This has been episode 2. So, as always, stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.